This is going to be a walkthrough of getting through all the acts of the campaign into tier 15 maps and PoE 2 for an alt character. Alt character refers to the fact that you already have one character that's at maps and you've gotten a little bit of currency where you can buy items to make leveling easier. The first thing you need to decide when you're making an alternative character is what in-game build do you want to get to, right? So for this in-game build, we're actually going to be going with a Pillar of the Cage God Gimling Legionnaire using Stormwave. That build comes to us from DS Farbill Woggle, his Pillar of the Cage God Legionnaire in-game build, and I will link that video in the description below. But to get to that build, we need another build that's going to take us there. This is a really cool leveling build by a guy named Palstron, and the cool thing about this leveling build is it can be used on any class. So whether you're playing a witch, a warrior, a ranger, a sorceress, a Gimling Legionnaire like I am, a mercenary, whatever you're playing, you can use this build to get you through the campaign. And if you're having any trouble in the campaign at all, I highly suggest checking this build out to get through it a lot easier, especially if you're doing a second character and you just want to get through the campaign really quickly. So now that we know that, we got a little bit of prep work we need to do to get into the build. Basically, you need to buy the gear that you're going to be leveling with for the character. And then potentially at Act 3, you're going to have to start transitioning out of this gear. Sorry, not Act 3. Act 1 Cruel, Act 2 Cruel. You're going to have to start transitioning out of this gear into slightly stronger defensive gear. That's the first place you're really going to hit a wall. There are a couple really good helmets to level with, but the one that Palstron recommends is Greymake. We're also going to need a Fox Shade Quilted Vest. We're going to need a Pillar of the Cage God. It doesn't matter what you have on the Pillar of the Cage God. He recommends putting in some sort of damage, though, in the runes. So in my case, I put in 3 martial weapon runes that add 6 to 10 cold damage per rune. If you have a 2-socketed staff, that's perfectly fine. You're also going to need some leveling shoes. So we're going to have these level 11 shoes with 20% movement speed sitting aside. Those are Wanderlust. We're also going to have these shoes that you can wear from the beginning of the game, which have 10% movement speed. And these are the Luminous Paste Straw Sandals. That's what we're going to start with before we transition into the Wanderlust. For belts, we're going to have the Mergenord's Girdle. For helmets, besides the Greymake, we're eventually going to transition into a Thrill Still, which is going to give us Onslaught all the time, which gives us increased skill speed and increased movement speed permanently, so that's a really cool helmet. We're also going to have the 3 Dragons mask, in case we want to put that in around level 45. As far as jewelry goes, we're going to need a Surefoot Sigil, a Paul Crikeln, sorry, my enunciation's horrible. This sapphire ring that enemies chilled by your hits can be shattered as though frozen. And we're also going to need just any rings you can find that have adds blank damage to attacks. So whether it's physical damage or fire, cold, or lightning, you just want rings that stack that damage modifier. That's how we get damage on our weapon. And then our strength scales that damage per 10% increased weapon damage per 5 strength. So it scales off of the Pillar of the Cage God weapon. And then for gloves, he recommends using these ringmail gauntlets, the yarn grippers, and we can wear these at level 6. And besides that, I just have a Blackheart ring. This is a really cheap, easy to get ring that you can wear from level 1 to just get yourself some damage. But now that we have all of these items put together, the only thing that you might want to consider before you jump into this, whatever in-game build you're heading towards, having some of that gear, so having some of the in-game gear already bought would be very nice. So I have an Ingenuity belt. That's kind of cheating here. I'm not going to be using the Ingenuity belt until late into mapping, but I will be using a lot of these other items as we kind of level up and get to the levels that we're going to go to. So you could buy some of the gear you need as you're leveling, but you don't have to have it right away. This is also, the Black Sun Crest helmet's also a really good leveling helmet on top of being a good in-game helmet for the build we're going for. So now that we have all of that, we're going to exit to character selection, and we are going to start our adventure. Okay, so the only actual difficult part of this will be getting through the first little area. So we're going to hit standard, and we're going to make a new character. We're going to make ourselves a mercenary, which I'm pretty sure is this guy, yep. Then you have to come up with a name, which is always a lot of fun. I'm going to call him Stormin Norman, because we're using Stormwave. Stormin Norman already exists. Okay, now we're Stormin Norman XD. Oh, they're all dead. Not my witch. So, besides being a guide for Gimling Legionnaire, this is also going to be a really good build for just leveling a character in general, because we're going to go through all of the acts, and we're going to go through which missions you need to do and which ones you don't need to do as you're leveling. That actually worked. Okay. So obviously the first thing you do is talk to this guy. And then a zombie attacks him, and then you get this really cool, you know, stabbing him thing. I'm pretty sure on the witch we grabbed a rock instead of that. So if you don't have equipment auto-equipped, you're going to have to go ahead and press I or open your inventory on a controller, and you're going to have to put this item on. So with the crossbow, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to shoot the zombies, and then you're going to have to reload. So if you're doing a Gemling Legionnaire like me, you'll have a certain amount of bolts, and then you can use the second item you have to reload. So I'm going to have 7 bolts in my crossbow to start. And starting off with a ranged character is really nice in this game. I prefer it over a melee character. And what I'm going to do first off is I'm going to put move only onto my left mouse click, and then I'm going to put my skill on my other mouse. If you're using WASD, obviously, it doesn't matter which one you have it on. So in this first little area, you can just storm through and get to the boss, or you can get some levels and kill some stuff and try to get some skill gems. I actually found it a lot easier to beat the boss on like a warrior. So let's say you're leveling a warrior. The opening skills you get with a warrior are really bad, and so I actually found it useful to grind out some minions until I got a staff that gave me the firebolt skill, so I didn't have to be melee in that first boss fight. Trying to get that little guy who's actually doing the damage to me. So I just realized that I have a really strict filter on for this character. So I'm going to turn that off in a second. I'm just going to turn on Never Syncs Light Filter, which I do have a guide on how to get that on your computer. And what I'm doing here, I'm not trying to go for levels here. I'm hoping that I can get a couple of items off of these guys as I get through to the boss. But if you don't get any items, it's okay. You can still beat the boss of this area pretty easily with a ranged weapon. So fragmentation rounds is going to be my first skill I get. And what fragmentation rounds is going to allow me to do, it's going to allow me to put in a different type of ammo. So I have my basic bolt, and then I have my fragmentation rounds. So now I can put in fragmentation rounds instead of my bolt. And what will happen now is my bow and arrow will now shoot a different type of round. The problem is only one of them loads at a time, and it's an AoE damage skill. So what I like to do is I like to trade out which bolt I'm using based on the type of enemy. And you can see I can quickly switch back and forth. The only issue is actually going to be reloading. Okay, so we got our first level. So for this, we are just going to do everything we can. We're going to follow Palstron's build, and we're just going to do everything we can to get to the outside of this circle first. That's what we want to do. We don't want to take anything inside the circle. We just want to get to the outside. So sadly, I can't use that item. So here we actually have our first like AoE situation. So we can even see that even our AoE skill doesn't do too much damage, but it does take down the AoE packs like a little bit quicker than the single target. And obviously if I was within melee range, this would go a little bit quicker too. But I don't want to be in melee range. Okay, so here's the boss. The key here on this boss is just dodging his big frontal AoE attacks. So he has a charge attack and then he has a slam. So that's his slam. And you just want to make sure you're out of the way when that hits. The only other thing that's going to worry you besides his frontal attacks is going to be when he summons a bunch of minions out of the ground. And here is where it can get a little bit dicey if you're not focusing ads. So you want to make sure that you do everything you can to get the ads down as quickly as possible while dodging all the boss attacks. Or alternatively, you could just focus the boss and completely ignore the ads if you're able to do that dodge rolling and not get cornered. So right here we got that frontal attack again, and as long as we keep our eyes on the boss, we should be good. But for this boss, it's all about those frontal attacks that he has. And you can see it's okay to mess up. It's not the end of the world. You have enough health charges to take a couple of these hits to the face. And explaining all of this going through makes it a bit harder to actually dodge stuff and pay attention. So, you know, like you'll be a lot more focused than I am right here. And I actually just stunned the boss right there, so we could have had some extra damage on him. And that's another good thing the shotgun's good for, is to stun enemies. But again, we won't be using this for very long. we're literally just using this skill until we get to the city. And we're going to get our first skill when we get into the city. And we're going to change to our cage, our Pillar of the Cage God staff. And we will be using melee attacks from then on out. So in the campaign, never leave superior items behind, except for superior flasks. Superior flasks don't matter as much. But superior items you can sell and you know, do well with. So very quickly, we'll cut the video. So go ahead and accept this guy's quest. And then... let me do this sale real quick.
Welcome to the camp of all. I fear this land. Stay safe, if you can.
A face like that almost makes me want to help for free. Almost.
Okay, cool. Now that I'm done with my sale, we've talked to Una, and we've picked up her quest. Una does not identify items for us. That is the hooded one. We're just trying to see if we can get a slightly better flask. I mean, it is slightly better. It's not noticeably better. Like, all it is we use less flash charges. But for everything else, I'm just gonna destroy that. Okay, so now that we're actually to where we can get to our leveling gear, we have our Pillar of the Cage God staff, which is a staff that okay, so the reason if you have a Pillar of the Cage God staff and you can't put it on like this, it's because you have fragmentation rounds in your like loaded in. So once you take that off, you'll be able to put this in. And now we're going to pick up our first skill inside of the quarterstaff. So you're not going to be using the crossbow skills. You're going to be using the quarterstaff skills. So the thing about the quarterstaff skills is none of the early ones are very good. The main quarterstaff skill we'll use throughout the campaign is going to be Ice Strike, right? Falling Thunder's okay AoE once you get charges. Killing Palm is an interesting one. Glacial Cascade, though, has range on it. So that's the one we're going to go with just because it has a little bit of range. But the main skill we're going to be using is going to be this Quarterstaff Strike. Now, you could go ahead and start putting some support gems onto this Quarterstaff Strike if you wanted to, but we're not going to just for the sake of, you know, having like some new players. And the next skill we're going to get after this that's really going to power us up is going to be Tempest Spell. So you'll see that we're doing single target melee damage, and that's why we got Glacial Cascade, to have a little bit of ranged attack on this. And you can already see that it's doing a ton of damage, but we're actually going to go back to town because we forgot to put on our Blackheart ring. Blackheart rings are really cheap, and they really help boost your damage early on. And so going back to leveling gear, we're actually going to put on all of the items that we can that are this early on. So the Foxshade Quilled Vest is actually really good early on because of, like, it's just awesome. You can wear it from level 1 and it boosts your dexterity, which is great for this staff because it increases your attack speed, and it also gives you increased movement speed when you're on full health. And if you get a good corruption on it, you can get like this right here, which is 12% of damage taken recouped as mana. That's not like an incredible corruption. Or you can get 42% increased thorn damage. We're going to go ahead and go with this vest because I put elemental resistance sockets into it. And you can also, from level 1, wear this Meganord's Girdle. So we're going to go ahead and put that on. And I actually have 2 of them. And this one has a little bit less strength on it. And it hasn't been corrupted. And this one has a little bit more life. And then we're also going to throw on our Blackheart's ring. So right now, this build is doing pretty okay as far as all the items go. We have some gloves that we can wear really early on. And actually, I think we have some gloves we can wear right now that I just don't have in my leveling area. Let me see if I can't find them. Yeah, these right here. So the North Paw gloves are really good starting gloves to wear too. So I guess I took that out of my leveling gear. And from here on out, it's just going to be trying to level and get through the axe. So We are in the first area of Act 1, the first actual area past the opening. So there are three things we need to find in this area, okay? The first thing we need to find in this area is going to be the waypoint, okay? There's a waypoint, there's a boss that gives you increased cold damage recovery, and then there is a exit to the next area, right? The waypoint is right beside a side area that we're gonna do, but you don't have to do. So we found the waypoint. That's the first thing we want to do. At this point, you could head inside Mudburrow and kill the side boss inside Mudburrow, which is the Devourer, but we're not going to. Almost always, this map is going to be basically the same layout. The waypoint's going to be somewhere. It could be north or south, but the boss is generally going to be in the middle. And you can see even very early on, nothing in here stands a chance. Like, it's all just dying right away, right when we hit it. So in the middle of the map is going to be a boss that gives us plus 10% to cold resist. You don't want to miss any of the resistance bosses in the game, or any of the bosses that give you skill points. There are a lot of side bosses you don't need to do, such as the Devourer. But right here, you can see how quickly we killed that boss, and it's probably a lot quicker than most people have seen it die in their playthroughs. It's just, this is such a great build created by Palstron. So from here, you basically want to head north-ish. It's always gonna, the exit to this area, to the next zone, is always gonna kind of be on this side of the map. Okay? And so we've already found the waypoint, so we can waypoint back to the Devourer at any time. So there's really no point in beelining to the Devourer right now, just because we know that waypoint's right there. And there are a couple of side missions in the game that have waypoints next to them. The big ones that I can think of are this one and the Venom Crypt in Act 3. So in this area, there's quite a few side bosses that you can do, but none of them are super important. So if you press U on your keyboard, or however you go to your map on your controller, sorry, I don't know, you'll see that there are 3 different things in this area that are kind of side things, right? You have the Forgotten Witch, you have the Witch's Hut, which those are on top of each other. The Witch's Hut gives you flasks, and then the Witch herself, you just kill her and you don't get anything. And then you have the Brambleghast, which also you kill the Brambleghast and you don't get anything. So right here on this Witch of the Rod Impact, this Berira of the Rod Impact, you can see that little check mark, or plus mark, which to me also kind of looks like an Iron Cross a little bit. But if you see that little plus mark next to a side objective, that means that side boss gives you something for killing it. Okay? And you can see that, like, the Bloated Miller gave us nothing, but we had to kill it for the campaign. But that means the Brambleghast and the Witch here, you don't need to do those to get through the campaign. So we're not going to try to find those bosses. If you do find them, kill them, feel free, no problem. But they're not important and you don't have to do them. And if we're talking about getting through the acts as quickly as we can, then we're talking about skipping anything that we don't have to do, right? So what we're doing right now is we're outlining the map. And the reason I'm outlining the map is we're looking for the 3 things we're looking for in this area are we're looking for the exit to Rust Vale, okay? So the exit to Rust Vale, which is going to be on the outside of the map. We're looking for the exit to the Greywood, or to the Grim Tangle. And we're looking for the waypoint in this area, which is going to be right beside the hidden one. Or the hooded one, my bad. So those are the 3 things you're looking for in this area. But there are, again, there's 2 other side bosses in this area that could, or guaranteeably are on this map somewhere. But you don't have to go search for them. If you kill them, all you're really going to get is a little bit of additional XP. So again, I like to outline the outside of the map and then do the inside, kind of like a puzzle. You do the border of the puzzle first, and then you can kind of color in the middle and finish up the middle. So right here looks like it's leading to like a little down area, which might signify it has something. But what you're really looking for is checkpoints. Checkpoints signify that there's something there. And then luckily you can use checkpoints to teleport around to make it easier to backtrack. So we have a checkpoint right here, so we know that there's something here. So this is actually the Brambleghast boss, which since we're here, we'll kill it just to do it. But it's not a boss that you need to kill. It's just a side boss. And so you'll see with this build, we freeze him pretty much immediately. And then even without the bell, we're able to just kind of chunk him down and kill him. I won't be picking up too much loot throughout this playthrough, but you know, we'll see. I might change that up on you. We might see that I pick up a lot of loot. Okay, so we have another checkpoint, which I think this is going to be the exit to the Red Vale. So what we're going to do here is we're actually going to enter the Red Vale. We're not going to do the Red Vale. I do this a lot through this walkthrough. I suggest finding the Red Vale, getting the waypoint, and then heading back into the Grelwood. And that happens a lot in areas. If we know there's a waypoint right through the door, we'll walk through, get the waypoint, head back when we still have more stuff to do. So now we only have 2 more things to find in here. And I know for a fact that those 2 things aren't going to be on the outside of the map. So at this point, it's not as important to do the outside of the map. Almost always, I'll do the outside of the map completely before I do the inside. But on this one specifically, the waypoint is going to be somewhere in the middle of the map, and the exit to the Grim Vale is going to be somewhere in the middle of the map. So make your own decision on what you want to do for that. And again, don't leave superiors behind in the campaign. It's free to portal back to town and drop loot off. But especially superiors, and the reason you don't want to leave those behind is superior items give you superior shards, and those shards sell for a decent amount of money. So right here, we can see we're heading to, you can kind of tell the Grim Tangle because of these little pustules, these little mushrooms right here. So again, we're going to head inside the Grim Tangle, we're going to get the checkpoint, and we're immediately going to head back out. There's nothing you can do inside the Grim Tangle right now. So now we only have one more thing to find inside of the Grelwood of Act 1, right? So now you're looking for the checkpoint in this area, which is going to be right beside the hooded one. Okay, so we have a checkpoint. This is going to be the Witch's Hut. I'll show you the Witch's Hut very quickly. Inside the Witch's Hut's going to be a cauldron, and it's just going to have some flasks inside of it. Grab them if you want. They can be upgrades to what you have because you're so early on. And then besides that, I'm just going to face tank the witch right there, and we're going to move on to finding the final area. So you can kind of tell that I've done a lot of the map so far, and so there's very few unexplored places. So now it's just kind of time to go back and fill in the unexplored places and find the checkpoint to get out of here. So though there is a bit of randomness in PoE2's maps, and there is randomness, there's also set points that you have to go through. So once you find the waypoint, you're going to summon Una, and she's going to tell you to go to the Rust Vale and get something, get 3 little stakes, or get 3 relics that you turn into stakes. So now that we already have the waypoint to the Red Vale, I say Rust Vale. I said Rust Vale because of the in-game map that this is connected with, which is like Rust something, or is it just called Rust? So anyway, inside of the Red Vale, we are going to, there's 3 things we need to get inside of here, but they're all connected to each other. So for the next couple waypoints, I'm just going to start stacking strength. And remember, we're just heading immediately out of this tree. We're just heading straight down till we get to this jewel socket. And no matter what class you're on, you're just heading out to the outside, and it actually makes it easier to travel around the map from the outside. And so we already found our first Obelisk of Rust that we need to activate. So you're going to activate the first one. A bunch of minions are going to appear. So just kill the minions very quickly. And you can see this is kind of where our AoE ability is nice, because it can it can hit the enemies from a distance. Another setting that I really like that I don't have on for some reason is enemy health bars above their head. So I will turn that on right after I kind of get to a safe spot. All my settings reset on me the other day for some reason, like all of them. I streamed the game to my Steam Deck from my PC, and I messed around with a lot of stuff trying to get the ratios correct, which never happened because I wasn't at home, so I couldn't be at my computer, and only my vertical monitor turned on. So my Steam Deck was playing the game in vertical mode, like it was like a cell phone playing the game. And it was only on like the middle part of the screen. It was ridiculous. But okay, we're actually going to go into settings, and we're going to go to interface, and we are going to turn on enemy life. So show mini life bar above you, show mini life bar above NPCs. Okay, it should show a mini life bar. And always have show monster resistance icon in place or activated, because that's going to be really important to know if enemies are resistant to certain elements. So right here you can see the red fire. That means that the enemy is actually weak to fire damage. So if you see the little red fire icon right on the right hand side of their health bar right at the bottom, that tells you that they're weak to fire damage. If it's golden, it means they're strong to that. If it's red, it means they're weak to that element. And that is really important for like my lightning build, where I use Dorian's prototype, Doriani's prototype, which gives enemies my lightning resistance. So I have negative 150 lightning resistance, and I know that I'm within range of an enemy when I see that red bar. So I know I don't have to, or that red lightning bolt. So I know I don't have to get any closer. So we're still looking for two more of our things in the rust area, the obelisk of rust. And again, if you don't want to do the single target damage that I'm doing, you can switch to AoE. Once we get to Ice Strike, it's actually going to do a ton of AoE damage. It'll be a very similar attack to the basic quarterstaff attack, but it'll do AoE. And it'll be really nice. Okay. Just looking around for the next checkpoint. I didn't want to... sometimes you like miss a pixel, and then you have to circle all the way back around the map. And because my movement speed is so slow right now, I don't want to do that. So here we go. Okay, so I really like this map personally. I like the boss on this map too. To start to explain some of the boss's mechanics, he basically has 3 distinct attacks that I can remember. The first one is he has a bunch of swords kind of hovering in front of him in a line, and they'll drop down on top of you. The next one is he hovers a bunch of swords over his head at a diagonal. So they're not in front of him in a line, they're like above his head looking at a diagonal, like kind of facing you. And what that does is that is where he is going to shoot them all in a straight line in front of himself. And so definitely highly suggest, so for the line one, just don't stand underneath the swords. And then for the diagonal one, just don't be in front of him. And then he does an AoE one, and he summons a bunch of swords around his body. And it's pretty clear, basically, there are a bunch of swords around his body, and you can't stand in front of one of the swords. They all go shooting around to the direction they're facing, and just like don't stand within one of the swords like vectors. Okay, there's the next obelisk of rust that we need to hit. And I am just over here single targeting a bunch of enemies down. As much as Glacial Cascade looks cool right now, it is, if you don't have the Pillar of the Cage God Staff and you try to use Glacial Cascade, it's going to do absolutely nothing for you. Okay? And honestly, all this build really needs is the Pillar of the Cage God Staff. Like, for leveling. The other stuff is really great, though. It scales your damage well. Without all the other stuff I talked about, your damage just won't scale as well. So this is a tough one. The last checkpoint's probably in the middle somewhere. But I know that if I go check the middle first, it's going to be, like, right here. Like, right up here, you know? Okay, definitely not there. Okay. It's probably not, like, right there in that corner that I'm leaving, but, you know, who knows? So we have our first magic monster that is like a noticeable magic monster that had a nice little effect around it, which was the magma circle. And then right here, we're just taking a lot of damage because of because we're surrounded by a bunch of small enemies. And it sucks, but once we get our next skills, like once we get a skill gem level 5 and we get to a high enough level, those enemies are going to be exploding everywhere, so we won't have to worry about it quite as much. And the added cold damage to the staff is really helping to freeze these enemies. So the reason I'm freezing the enemies is because of the added cold damage to the staff. Just to be clear, like if you're not freezing enemies with a Pillar of the Cage God, it's because of the runes you put inside of it. So in the end game, you kind of want to put attack speed runes in a Pillar of the Cage God, but this early on, you want to put in like some sort of damage scaler. So here's the final Obelisk of Rust, and here's where the boss is going to come out. I'll try to go a little bit slow on this boss so I can show off some of its mechanics to help you kind of get through it if you don't have as much damage as I do. So he's going to come out, and his first, he has these melee swings he can do. Those are just his basic attacks. And let's wait for one of his special attacks, which let me hit him a couple times. For the special attacks, you can just kind of dodge around him. Okay, I'll let him unfreeze and attack again. So here is where he's just going to summon a bunch of adds. I didn't really talk about the adds earlier because it's not as strong of an attack, but here's where the swords are around his body, and I'm standing between two of the vectors of the swords, or two of the, lines of sword, and that is the frontal attack where he summons the swords above his head. And the last one is just where he has swords in front of him. But that's how you take care of that guy. You just have to dodge those sword attacks, and then when minions come out, just don't miss paying attention to the swords. Right? That's the tough thing, is take the minions out as quickly as you can and then kill the boss. Now, if you have as much damage as we do, which you should if you bought the items I was telling you to buy, just go up, hit him, freeze him, kill him. That's it. Okay. So we never used the head of the Winter Wolf. So right click that in your inventory. And what that's going to do is that is going to give you 10% cold resist, which is awesome. And we're going to talk to Renly now for the next part of this mission. He's going to take the 3 relics we just got, and he's going to turn them into these stakes. And what we're going to do with these flasks we just got is we're going to upgrade these flasks to see if we get anything worth using. So this flask has 90 life instead of 50, so we're going to use it. And then this one has 70 instead of 50, so we're going to use it. And then you can disenchant these at Una if you want to. Just press Control, click on her, and you can disenchant old magic stuff. I didn't realize that this wasn't magic, though. And then for everything else, we're just going to throw everything into our stash. And if you don't know what I'm doing to be able to get everything into my stash tabs that quickly, I just Control left click it. What you can do is you can hit the little button here, the little stash options button, and you can enable tab affinities. And then you can come to the tab, right click the tab, and for affinities, you're going to have a bunch of choices. So under that tab, this is a currency tab, so it only has the currency affinity. But you can see if you don't have a currency tab, you can still set a currency tab. So all of my currency would come to this tab if I turned on this currency affinity for this normal stash tab. And then these are basically the 6 things that you can set affinities for. So sadly, everything else like breach and stuff still has to go to you still have to manually put in, but it's not that big a deal. The currency is the biggest thing that you kind of want that for. So now that we have the next item, the first thing we're going to do is put our next waypoint in, and we're still stacking strength because strength is what scales our damage the most right now. So going back to a waypoint, we're going to travel to the Grelwood. So we're heading to the Grelwood, and we're going to show up right where the hooded one is. And you can talk to Una if you want to, but we're just going to put the stakes inside of these runic seals, and that is going to free the hooded one. Okay. So now we have freed the hooded one. And now we are going to wait here and we're going to talk to Una. And now we're going to head back to town. Once you get inside of town, just talk to Una again. And then immediately we're just going back to the waypoint. And we're heading to the Grim Tangle. Inside of the Grim Tangle, Una's going to appear. We're going to have to summon Una. And she is going to sing for us. So these vines right here are going to disappear, or somewhere, I guess this direction. So she's going to sing for us, and then the vines are going to disappear.
The old magic still thrives. The ways
Okay.
please.
You know what I just realized? For some reason, I don't think audio is coming through well on... Turn it up just a little bit so it starts coming through a little bit better. I don't want it to be higher than my voice, though. Okay, so once you get inside the Grim Tangle, you're basically just looking for the exit. Now, if you look at the Grim Tangle, you'll see that there's no side boss here in the Grim Tangle, but there is a boss inside of this area. This boss doesn't give you anything for killing it, but presumably we might have to do it to get through the story. I don't think you do. I think you can skip it. If we can skip it, we will, but if we see it, we will kill it. So again, just kind of pick a direction and completely... This is a map where it's a little bit harder to do the outside of a map like this first, because it's so windy, but we're still just going to kind of pick a side of a wall. So I picked this wall right here, this wall that was kind of on my left-hand side, and I'm just going to follow this wall until it stops. And that's how I kind of make searching for new areas a little bit simpler. And you can see we already found the boss, which was, you know, had nothing to do with my methods. It just had to do with luck. So this boss right here, he has a couple of skills. One is where he teleports you away from himself, and another one is where he teleports. Besides that, he just throws stuff on the ground. Avoid the stuff on the ground, and you should be good to kind of get through that. So it looks like we might have had to kill that boss to get to the next area, but we will see. If the next area is through here, then I guess we kind of had to. Unless this connects back here. Yeah, I'm more and more I'm thinking you don't have to kill that boss. We're going to go upgrade our gear in just a couple seconds with some new stuff that we got once we get to the next area. Some new stuff that we came into the campaign with. Once we hit level 8 is when we can wear our necklace, and that is kind of the next thing that I really, really like. That necklace is awesome. Basically, the reason the necklace is awesome is it enables us to move quicker than running. We can do a dodge roll, and our dodge rolls will actually be quicker than running for a little bit. It won't be something we use like all the time. Like, I'm not going to be spamming dodge rolls on here. So it looks like that was an optional boss that you don't have to kill, because this does reconnect back to this area. So you can see that what I mean is like this connected back over here. It's kind of hard to see because the map's so dim, but it connected back to the start. So you do not have to kill the Plague Druid if you don't want to. It's just a little bit of XP and maybe a skill gem. You know, maybe side bosses drop skill gems or something, you know, which are nice early on. If you're actually leveling an alt character, then that's not necessary, because you should have enough skill gems from mapping that it's just like, you know, you're done. Hey, look at that. I need to turn subs off while I'm making the video, but I'm gonna pause alerts, but I just got a new follower. Thank you very much. Not that you'll see this, Jerry D. Finero. Jerry D. Fio. Okay. So moving on, we're heading up to the exit. And again, if you want to, instead of using the single target attack, you can just use Glacial Cascade as an AoE attack. I don't have any support gems on any of my skills, which would be a big buff for you right here. Another thing you can do before you even start this is just go ahead and get all your support gems ready, which is something I did not do, by the way. So we will have to do that together. And the reason I didn't get any support gems ready was because I want to show kind of putting like what support gems I'm going to put on to make myself better. Okay, so now we're in the Cemetery of the Eternals, and we're talking to Lachlann the Lost. So he's mad at Praetor Draven for taking his family hostage, and we have to go find the tomb of the Praetor and the tomb of the Consort to be able to get to the next area. So again, I'm just going to kind of pick a corner and go with it. So we have kind of a wall that I'm going to follow. So I'm just going to follow this wall until I find a checkpoint. And there are a couple side like story checkpoints inside of the game, and those are fun if you really like the lore. Get into it. I love the lore of the first game because I've been playing the game like trying to like, you know, make good characters and make guides and stuff. I haven't been paying as much attention to lore. I understand the story lore perfectly, but all the side stuff, like, you know, the deep lore that they do in these games, I haven't gotten into yet. Okay, remember, don't leave any superior items behind. And now that we're inside of the Tomb of the Praetor, we're kind of hugging a wall, and I'm just going to follow it around, and then, you know, this wall turns in here, so I'm going to follow the wall inside of here. And you can see, oh, we're back at the beginning now. You know, so I'll just grab this wall now and I'll head in here. Okay, so this is just a circle, takes us back around here. And now we're gonna go back and we're just gonna grab this next area, and we're just gonna start following a wall there too. So this is the Tomb of the Praetor, which is a melee boss. Well, he's a melee boss. He has some range abilities too. He can be a bit of a hard boss, I think, for when you first start playing the game. I think the Praetor, some people disagree with me, but I think the Praetor is like the first check in the game for like, do you have your shit together? Because I just feel like a lot of my friends had hard times with him. Like my friends who didn't play PoE 1. Okay, so we found the actual boss fight. My friends that didn't play PoE 1 or didn't have a good build together, they just had a hard time on this guy. So this guy is going to have a lot of melee moves. I'm going to try to show off some of his moves so we can see how to actually beat him. So this will be a frontal attack where he shoots a bunch of things out. And I'm just going to hit him a couple times. And you can dodge roll his attacks or avoid them. So right there, he just kind of like, he's summoning the Consort. So now the Consort's going to do this ground AoE move, and as long as you just keep running, you'll dodge that attack. So then he did his frontal slam again, and he did the last attack that I want to talk about while I was running away from the AoE. His girlfriend's AoE. So I'm going to wait for him. So right here, he does a frontal slam, and then he shoots out. So you want to be behind him whenever he does that frontal slam, because everything in front of him gets messed up. These little souls, if you step on them over a tomb, it'll actually summon an ad. So it'll summon one of these little dudes. Okay, so let me actually kill this guy real quick before he messes me up, because I'm just talking instead of fighting. Shield boys are really annoying, so just, if you can, ignore the shield boys and just kill the Praetor. Because shield boys, you have to stun them to be able to kill them. Okay, but those are all the moves on the Praetor, so you shouldn't have a hard time with them. Before you leave the room of the Praetor, make sure you grab Draven's memorial key piece. Okay, make sure you grab it. I have done this before with friends where I didn't grab it and then I had to go back in and the area was already reset, so I had to kill the boss again. And that was actually when I didn't have a good build together. And so it was not fun. Okay. So now we're looking for the Tomb of the Consort. And just like the Praetor, which I think I'm saying that right, but I doubt it because I'm horrible at enunciating. The Consort is going to be able to summon the Praetor just like he summoned her. So it's kind of this cool mechanic boss fight where they both summon each other to help each other. I think that's pretty dope. I mean, apparently the Praetor was something of a bad guy, because Lachlann, the Lachlann guy, is saying that like, oh, he held my family hostage and stuff. So, but again, I haven't looked into the actual lore of who are these people, why were they held hostage, stuff like that. You know, it's like, it's easy to look at Mervale in PoE 1 and go, oh, she's just like an evil, crazy siren lady who's trying to kill me. But if you look into her lore and stuff, it's actually really, really cool. You know, and I'm sure it's the same thing here. So we have our first rare, I think. Okay, so it is about time. It is about time to go back to town. I would like to find the Tomb of the Consort first, and then go back to town and deconstruct some superiors, which I think I have 2. Yep. No, I only have 1. I have a Rattling Scepter because, you know, I'm going to put the Rattling Scepter down. It's only level 3. I love crafting Rattling Scepters, but it's a little too early in the game to be trying to craft a Rattling Scepter. Okay, so we've done a full circle here, which means we've outlined the entire map, which means one of two things. The Consort's map is either inside the middle of this area, or one of these little tiny things that we didn't explore that look like dead ends is actually where it is. So, of course, it was like 10 feet away from me as I'm talking. And people in the video probably saw it and were like, what are you doing, you idiot? Okay, so I'm going to go back to town real quick. And we are going to put on some of our new gear that we have access to now that we're level 8. So going to my leveling gear stash, if you were keeping up with what I was telling you to grab, at level 5, you can put on the Grey Make Helmet. This is going to scale us up a ton. So what the Grey Make Helmet does is you get you get all of these attributes. So 33 strength, 34 dex, 37 intelligence, and those can roll different, up to 50. And then you get -1 to all attributes per level. So when we get to like level 27, we're only going to have 6 strength. We're only going to have 7 dex. We're only going to have, did I say 27? So 10 intelligence. So it's like at that point, oh wait, we'd have more than, no, we'd have 6 strength. Yeah. Okay, that works. But at that point, it's time to switch out this helmet for something better. And that's when, right when we hit 27, we can put on the Thrill Still helmet. So that's a pretty good transition point. Now, if you get rolls on this up to 50, you could wear this helmet a lot longer. But getting rolls on this up to 50 is going to be pretty expensive, whereas this helmet was like literally like a couple exalt, nothing at all. The next item we're going to put on is a Surefoot Sigil. This is going to help us because this is going to give us increased dexterity, increased max life. And if looking at the Pillar of the Cage God, 5 dexterity increases our attack speed. So we're going to get some good attack speed off of this, but it's also going to increase the amount that we dodge roll. And we're going to get 48% increased evasion when we do dodge roll recently. And I think recent means 4 seconds. Yeah, recently means 4 seconds in this game. You can see that this is actually supposed to be 1 meter to distance of dodge roll, but I have 0.9 meters because I corrupted it and it got it rolled down, but it's not a big deal. I'm still using it, like whatever. And once we get to level 12, that's when our next big upgrade comes as far as rings go, because we're going to be able to wear this ring when mixed with Ice Strike is going to make us fly through the game. Okay, so also we have these gloves that are ready to go. These gloves are really, really good for this build, but you have a choice between the 2 gloves at this point. Do you want the attack damage and the critical strike damage, or do you want to have increased attack speed and strength can satisfy other attributes of melee and weapon skills? So we are actually going to go with these gloves instead. And if we go into our DPS meter, you can see that right now our DPS with Quarterstaff Strike, which is our main attack, is doing 409 DPS. And how you can kind of tell if it's good to switch over is you can put the other gloves on and you can see it actually went down in DPS to 386. So that's kind of when you know it's good to switch the gloves over. That doesn't take into account the critical hit, but, you kind of got to just base it off of what you're seeing in front of you. Okay, so now we're going to teleport back to the Tomb of the Consort, which is right here. Inside the Tomb of the Consort, we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to hug this wall right here. So I'm just going to grab the left wall and I'm going to hug it. And it's just a little bit more convenient to kind of hug a wall versus wandering around randomly, in my opinion. So this is a side area. This is the Haunted Treasure. You can do this if you want to, but this actually summons the shield monster. And I was just telling you how fucking annoying shield monsters are. But luckily I was able to freeze that guy right away before he could start blocking a lot of attacks. Okay, there we go. And he just dropped an uncut support gem. Then there's a chest to open. The little side areas, like if you look at the map and you can see little side areas, like right here, the Ancient Ruin or the Witch's Hut, those are just like extra loot you can get. So those aren't things you have to do. Those aren't things you have to search for. That's just extra loot you can get. Okay. So now we're just going to continue hugging the same wall until we find the tomb. So that's a lot of fun. That's what I like to do, and I think it makes it a little bit easier. And remember, I'm hugging the left wall, so I'm just going to kind of continue to hug this left wall. I know that these coffins won't drop anything. All of these urns can be broken to get loot. Feel free to open them. I'm not going to be opening too many chests and urns throughout the game, but, like they're there if you want them, and you never know what's going to drop from them, especially if you have a little bit of luck built into your build. We're not going to have basically any luck through the entire campaign, but in-game we will transition to some luck. Okay, so chest, coffins. I just said I wasn't going to open much, and then I'm like, open everything. Okay, I'm going to open everything. Okay. Yeah, you can't take them glacial strikes, can you, buddy? Okay, so now we've hugged this left wall kind of all the way around the room to the other side of the room. Boop, boop, boop. I like to pick up every rune I see. Totally unnecessary. Runes aren't worth very much. They aren't that great. Like, once you get to the end game, soul cores replace them, and soul cores are so much stronger than rune sockets. The only rune sockets that are good or are used a lot that I know of are iron runes, and that is because they scale energy shield really well. So here's the Tomb of the Consort. The Tomb of the Consort, if you remember that AoE move we dealt with in the Tomb of the Praetor, that's her big attack. So that's like her big attack, and then she'll summon the Praetor, and she'll have him do his kind of like shooting out the little frontal AoE cone, like all the little orbs out. So she'll do her big AoE thing. So this is it. And as long as you run in a straight line, you'll avoid it, right? But you can always use your dodge roll to get past it. She's going to do her melee moves like that, where she just kind of does like frontal swings and stuff. And now she's going to summon her husband, or not her husband, her boy. And he actually summons, you saw him shoot the little things out over here, and she summoned bones around me. So you can dodge roll through the bones, and that enables you to get out of them. And that's pretty much her entire moveset that's, like, you know, tough to deal with. Besides that, just beat her down and kill her. The little souls, you can step on them if you want to stop them from moving. But if you step on them too close to the tombs, they will summon those little guys that we dealt with in the last area. And we're just going to Glacial Cascade that guy so he can't do all his blocking. And then again, make sure you grab her key. So Asani, however you say her name, Asani's key. And now we're right back to the beginning of this area with Lachlann. So let's go ahead and put in our next skill points, and we're still just stacking strength. Later in this build, we'll go full intelligence. Every single node will be intelligence. And that'll scale our damage better than anything else. But for right now, strength is our strength. Basically, what we're doing to get damage right now is we're getting adds 18 to 30 cold damage. And then on our rings, we're getting adds 1 to 4 physical damage, adds 3 to 4 chaos damage. We're getting as many of those adds damage as we can. And then on our staff, that is scaling by strength with the increased weapon damage. Okay. So you can see right here, the cold damage right here, it's going to get scaled up, and that's like how our damage is getting scaled right now. So this boss fight is a little bit of fun. So this guy comes in here and he freaks out because his family's dead. And I should say spoilers on this. I mean, it should be pretty obvious that if you're watching this, you're going to see the story. I will be skipping cutscenes and stuff, and I won't be reading everything out. I'll be skipping a lot of the dialogue. So this guy's clearly like a ghost or something. Again, I haven't looked into the lore. But he freaks out. He turns into a ghost. He is saying those bastard Eternals. So I always wonder if he's referring to the Eternal Empire. So this guy does a frontal slam and then a back slam right when he comes up. And that back slam will hit you hard. Besides that, he kind of chases you around. I like to kite him around this tomb sometimes if I'm feeling like I'm in a lot of danger. But let's look at some of his other moves. So he does this frontal little swipe thing that can hurt. And he'll eventually start using ghosts as bullets. So I'm going to hit him a couple times to trigger some new attacks. So frontal slam, then back slam. He frontal and then back. So do not dodge behind him for that attack. Here, he'll use ghosts as bullets. So he summons the ghosts up. He uses them as bullets. And then he summons them from the ground. And then they come back down on top of you. So he summons, or he shoots them up out of the ground and then back down, or vice versa. Frontal slam, back slam. So you could see earlier, he did a frontal slam on me, and then I went to his back. And then I almost got hit by the back slam. So make sure you don't roll to him when that attack happens. You roll away from him. But besides that, that's his entire moveset. And if you're using what I'm using, you can just freeze him and then beat him down. And honestly, we haven't even gotten Tempest Bell yet, which I'm pretty sure we can get right now. So let's go ahead and use this skill gem that we just picked up. Oh. Yeah, this level 3 skill gem. Go to Quarterstaff, and you can see that you can get Tempest Bell. Tempest Bell is your next big skill that's really going to do a ton of damage. So I'm going to put my Tempest Bell right here, put Glacial Cascade right there. So what Tempest Bell is you have to use 4 basic attacks or 4 Ice Strikes. So Ice Strike will also trigger Tempest Bell, which is why Ice Strike's awesome. And then it'll give you a Tempest Bell charge that you can drop on the ground. And just if you hit the Tempest Bell, it does tons of damage around you. Okay. Inside of the hunting ground, there's a couple different things we want to find now. The first thing we want to find is Crowbell, okay? The next thing we want to find is the exit to the Freythorn. And the final thing we want to find is the exit to the farmlands. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab this right-hand corner, and we're just going to start tracing the outside of the map. There will also be a ritual altar in here, but you actually don't have to do that ritual altar to get the spirit from the next area. So we have to do the Freythorn because the Freythorn gives us so you can see I hit my dudes a little bit, then I dropped my bell and just did AoE damage. But anyway, the Freythorn gives us plus 30 spirit, and that is how we're going to use Herald of Ice, which is going to be our first spirit gem. I don't think we'll be able to get Herald of Ice immediately, but we might be able to. We'll see. I know you can get Herald of Thunder immediately. I hate these little range dudes, but don't worry. Very, very shortly, once we get to Ice Strike, everything's just gonna blow up around us. And we are not too far away from it. So right there, I was kind of taken off of my wall, so I just went around those objectives, and I'm coming around to the other side of this wall, and you can see that I'm just going back to the area I just came from. So you can see how far our dodge roll is, too. It's a lot further than it was before. Like, that dodge roll right there is just a lot further. Let me take this necklace off. This dodge roll is not as far. So, putting this necklace back on, now we're going to be able to move a little bit quicker by dodge rolling than if we were just running around. So you can see I'm moving faster than this. But we are just going to continue to follow the wall. And again, we're looking for Freythorn, we're looking for the farmlands, and we're looking for Crowbell. Those are the three things we need to find in here. And actually, all three of them will be on the outside of the map. So right here, I think we just found Crowbell. This is Crowbell's arena. This is his final arena. So if you find this area, you know that you're really close to Crowbell, because he has 3 distinct phases. So, okay, here is Crowbell right here. And Crowbell, again, he has 3 distinct phases. The first phase is going to be inside of this area right here. So this is actually called Trial of the Beastmaster, which really makes me hope that Einhar is in this game. So in this phase right here, he's just kind of a melee, or he's always kind of a melee dude. But in this first phase, Crowbell's just kind of punching around and, you know, getting punchy in your face. There's really nothing too complicated in this first area. Just beat him till he starts transitioning to his next phase. Inside of his next phase, just follow him to this next area. And he is going to start beating on the door to go outside. So he's going to stand right there. He's going to get mad. And then he got bigger. So here he does a lot of AoE slams that you want to avoid. So you can see he did that big AoE where he jumps up in the air. And then he does a lot of frontal stuff. So it's very easy to avoid his frontal stuff by just dodging behind him. Right there, he did his AoE again. And you can see that I was able to dodge behind him to get away from it. And then he kind of did a multi-punch there on the ground. So now he's going into his third phase. He grabs his bell, and then he heads to that final arena that I was talking about. This one has a really dangerous skill where he slams his bell. So he slams the bell on the ground and does like a frontal AoE, and that really, really hurts if you get hit by it. So it's right there, and that is basically a one-shot if you don't have good enough gear. That's the main attack you need to worry about right there. We already got a Chaos Orb. Nice. So that is the main attack you really have to worry about on Crowbell. But yeah, so don't get hit by that attack. So now that we beat Crowbell, we're going to continue to hug a wall. Always, so there is always a dead end on the other side of Crowbell's arena. Let me show you real quick. Even when you're mapping with Crowbell, so when you do the Blooming Fields, which is the map that that Crowbell comes in on, there's always a dead end to the side of his arena. It's always there. Somebody always, like if they're new to the map and they haven't realized it, they always go down that path when you're mapping and stuff, but there's always a dead end there. And I don't really know why. It's something about the RNG or something, like, not the RNG, but the map generator. So now we're looking for 2 exits, the Freythorn exit and the farm exit. And we should actually find the farm exit first. So the reason that we should find the farm exit first, because at this point we're in the hunting grounds, and we're kind of on the north-ish side of the hunting grounds, and these things should always be kind of relative to one another. The things inside the map will be kind of random, but so we should always find the farmland first if we go up and around, and then we should find the Freythorn. But sometimes the Freythorn could actually be up here, you know? So basically it'll just be, once you find the farmlands, just go like this way, and then once you find the Freythorn, go like that way. But it's not always that way. One time I did find the Freythorn like up here, but it was still like, because it's only 2 exits, you know? So it's kind of, it's tough. It's tough to say, but see, we found the farmlands first, And because they're all relative to one another, though it's a random map, the exits and stuff are going to be relative to one another. So inside the farmlands, all we're going to do is grab the waypoint, and then we're going to head right back out to go to Freythorn. The Freythorn is really, really, really important because it's where you get your first 30 XP. Now, if you're on Act 1 Cruel, it actually doesn't give you, or it's your first 30 Spirit. If you're on Act 1 Cruel, you actually don't get anything for doing the Freythorn. So we're going to skip it in Act 1 Cruel. So we're about to freeze right there. So luckily we have our big old dodge roll. We can get out of the freeze, and we'll beat that dude down real fast, and it'll be super easy. Okay. We should be pretty close to the Freythorn. Oh, I made a mistake. I pressed my bell drop instead of my glacial cascade. So this will be the exit to the Freythorn right here. So let's head inside the Freythorn, and we're gonna complete the Freythorn. And if I hadn't found the farmland yet, I would have just come in here and got the waypoint and then left. But make sure you grab the waypoint in here. And now we're gonna complete this area. And this area is your introduction to a mechanic called Ritual. Ritual is a league mechanic from PoE 1, and it's not a horrible league mechanic. It is pretty good, and it gives you, if you're lucky, you can get a really, really valuable item from this league mechanic, and it is called an Audience with the King, and it's how you go fight the final boss of, it's how you get skill points for Ritual in this game. And if you're not to the Atlas yet, you won't know what skill points for Ritual are, but that's okay. You will find out with me. Okay, so we're going to beat Wraeclast down, he was just a random rare enemy. I do promise you this gameplay gets a lot smoother and a lot faster very shortly. But right now, we are just kind of hugging this right-hand wall, and we're going to go look for rituals. So there is thunder about to explode. Make sure you stand outside of any AoEs like that. So right now, what's happening to me is I'm standing inside of shock ground, and so I'm shocked, which means I get 20% more damage to me. So it's not the end of the world to stand inside the shock ground as long as you're not getting hit by other things. Or you can tank the damage that you're going to get, but it's 20% more damage. So let's say you're fighting a boss, you're fighting enemies that are hitting really hard. Just get outside the shock ground before you get hit by anything. Okay, so here we have a checkpoint. So we've just found the final boss area for this section. So this is actually what we can't do this yet. So this is the final one we have to do, but it is kind of showing us. You can look at these little wisps and you can kind of see the direction of where we need to go. I'm actually assuming there. I don't know that for a fact. I haven't tested that or anything, but a bit of an assumption there. But it should be somewhere in this direction that we need to go based on those wisps. Okay, so here's a rare, so we're going to actually drop a bell on him. Okay, I didn't even get a chance to drop a bell. But we'll drop a bell on this boss just to show you the damage of the bell. The most dangerous people in this area and a lot of areas are going to be Chaos Archers. Chaos Archers are very, very dangerous. They shoot out arrows that do damage to you, and you also have Chaos Mages in this area. So this is actually a relatively dangerous area. You've got this Chaos Archers and Chaos Mages. And so I've officially given up on hugging a wall because I just messed up and wasn't paying enough attention. So this is our first ritual platform. So we very luckily have found it, and we're just going to hit it. And what it does is it summons all of the enemies that you killed inside of it. So all those enemies I just killed inside of a ritual platform are going to be resummoned here so I can fight them. And so that actually is very good. Oh my god. Get him. Get him. Okay. So after doing the first ritual, you can summon Finn if you want to, but you don't actually have to summon Finn. I have 4 skill points I need to use, so I should probably pop those in real quick. And again, I'm boosting my strength. The only other thing I would boost right now would be my dexterity, and that is because dexterity gives you increased attack speed, but I'm not feeling like my attack speed is an issue. It's a little slow right now, but it won't become an issue until I get Ice Strike, and then we'll see how good my attack speed is. So those are just Fire Ground, and Fire Ground does damage over time to you. Unlike Shock Ground, which makes you take more damage, that just does a dot to you. And again, if you don't want to go inside the range of it, just use your range abilities to get it. So I'm actually going to go check this area right here. And the only reason I'm checking it is I saw wisps heading to, when I was at the main area, all the wisps that I saw were heading to the same direction, which made me believe that the two ritual altars might be on top of each other, like from the angle, and I'm actually correct. They are. So there, I just dropped a bell for fun. So, okay, I was actually correct. Both of the ritual altars were kind of in a line. So the wisp, when we were here, all the wisps we saw were heading in this direction. And our first ritual altar was here, and this one was here. So it was heading in like a straight line. So that's why I assumed the last ritual altar could be here. So just a little note for when you're playing. Maybe you can look at the wisp and see where they go if you find that last area first. So here we're just gonna stand still and we're just gonna kind of AoE stuff and you know, just dodge around when you need to, kill the range people first, and then go back for the melees. So now that we found these two areas, we can actually use the checkpoint to travel back to the first checkpoint and do the final one. So I'm mistaken, there's actually 4. So I did 3, but you can see again the whisper traveling kind of in this general direction. So I'm going to head back to this checkpoint and check out over here, and let's see if that will take me to the final one. And it did. So those wisps 100% show you where the rituals are. Very cool. That is something I actually had never noticed. But to be fair, it doesn't do that in the main game. It just does it for this one area. So again, just take out the range people first. So, you know, get to them. And then, you know, your melee people are going to follow you wherever you go. So if you can just get to the range people and take them out with some AoE damage, you'll also take out the melee people. And it's just a standard, you know, tank and spank, like stand melee on top of range is a very standard mechanic in video games. So now traveling back to the checkpoint. So here we're actually going to summon the boss of Ritual, which is what you get when you use an audience with the king. So this is not an extremely difficult fight. At least I think it's what you get. So the first thing you have to do is you kill all these little dudes, and then the boss is going to appear. We might be to a high enough level to be able to equip some of our new gear. So again, try to kill the range people first. But there we go. So now the boss is going to appear. The King of the Mist. Yeah, so this is the boss. You'll see he does that frontal thing. All of his damage is chaos damage. He's shooting out these little orbs at me, and then he's doing a frontal cone. So if you kind of travel in a circle around him, he actually can't really hit you with his attacks very well, right? So get a couple hits in, go around him. And now he's transitioning to his next phase after 2 hits. So he summons these totems, and you can go around and you can destroy the totems, or you can continue fighting him. I assume the totems buff him, but I actually didn't look to see if he had a buff on him, which I'm positive he did. But I will stop killing him now, and we can see that we actually have a negative buff. So keep moving or something bad was going to happen. I didn't get a chance to read it before it went away. So he's transitioning into his final phase, and he is standing in a giant old pile of blood. So that is generally going to be corrupted blood. And so right there it said keep moving or you probably get stunned or something. And so I didn't go kill that effigy, and that's why I got stunned right there. And those are chaos pods on the ground. Do not stand on them or they will kill you. So now I'm going to drop a bell, and you can see the bell just shreds bosses, right? So I was just kind of messing around with him to kind of show you how to beat him and stuff. But at the end of this fight, you're going to get the Gem Bloom Skull. Super important skull because you're going to get 2 things. First thing, you're going to get your first 30 spirit. Second thing is you're going to get your first uncut spirit gem. So with our first uncut spirit gem, we're actually going to go to all gems, and we're going to type in ice. And we want Herald of Ice as our first skill, as our first spirit gem. We will get Herald of Thunder eventually. Once you put Herald of Ice inside of your skill socket right here, you actually have to right click to activate it, okay? And what this does is while activated, shattering an enemy with attack damage will cause an icy explosion that hurts nearby enemies. So what that means is every time we're freezing enemies and killing them, now it's going to do AoE explosions, and it's going to do 100% of explosion physical damage, and it also converts to cold damage. So we're going to get some good scaling there on that Herald of Ice. And then this dude's going to come out and kind of like tell you a little bit of stuff about, you know, what's going on. You can grab a charm if you want to. I'm just going to go ahead and grab a fire charm until I'm probably going to put a rarity charm on. But then you go into your ritual and you can basically just get 1 item out of the ritual. None of these are going to be any good. If you see one that kind of stands out to you, feel free to get it. Like if there's a ring in here or a necklace in here, I might, or specifically a ring to go right here, I might take it. But But I'm just gonna take the crafting items, you know. Okay, now we're gonna portal back to town. So we're gonna portal back to town, and we're gonna talk to Finn. And that is just to complete the mission that Finn gave us. We don't have to talk to Finn. I mean, you don't have to talk to anybody. Real quick cleanup in town for me is I'm gonna do the salvage bench, and I'm just gonna get rid of these, and I'm also just gonna destroy these shoes because I didn't mean to pick them up, and I'm just gonna do a download into my inventory. And then the only thing we really have left is this ring, and we're gonna talk to Una, and she's gonna be like, "Oh, hey, I can revive the hooded one." The good thing about reviving the hooded one is that you can now identify your gear. So let's talk to him.
I don't know how to it's in my...
So once you accept this quest, you're actually going to get weapon set passes. You don't have to accept this quest. You don't have to come back to town. You can just go do the quest and turn it in, and you'll get the skill points. Okay, so this seed, so we're talking about the seed of the beast. So now that we kind of talked to everybody, you can talk to the hooded one now to be able to identify items. You don't have to click this identify items button. You can just hold control and click him, and it'll automatically identify items. The next area we're going to head to is going to be inside of the... Okay. So looking at our missions right now, we can actually see that on the Devourer mission, all we get is a support gem and gold, which are two things we actually don't need. So we're not going to do that. Okay, we're heading back to the farmlands, which we already got the waypoint for, because even if you found the Fey area first, you're going to go back until you get the farmlands waypoint. Inside of this area, all we're looking for is the exit and a hut. So there is a hut somewhere in here with a loot, and finding that loot is going to get us 2 passive skill points. They're actually weapon skill points. And there are 24 weapon skill points in the main story. So are we able to get Ice Strike yet? We cannot. We need a level 5 gem, and we have to be level 14. But we can level up Tempest Spell by 1 level, so we're going to do that. So the thing about this hut is it could kind of be at the beginning, or it could be randomly in the middle. So this is a map that you kind of have to explore a little bit more than I would like to. I would like to just kind of blow through this map and be done with it, but you need those weapon skill points. So you can see now that I'm killing stuff, the AoE damage is happening from Herald of Ice, and everything's exploding. Exploding, exploding. You see how much easier it becomes? Cool. So once you find this first checkpoint, you found the loot. Open it, grab the loot. And then if you want to, you can immediately return to town to get those 2 skill points by giving the loot to Una. Una. But we are going to go ahead and continue moving through this area. The exit to this area is always on like the southwest side of the map. You're not always going to have a straight walkway like this. Sometimes you'll have to head into the cornfields or wheat fields. But I was able to make it pretty much to the end without needing to do that. And now we're just going to kind of search the end of the map to try to find the exit, which should be pretty close to us. So like I said, southwest side of the map. You can kind of see we started way up here. This is south, this is west. I used to consider like this north and this just straight south, and then this east and this west. But that was only from like there was like very specific other video games I played where that was the case. But in this game, even though the map's kind of tilted, which it always kind of drives me a little bit bonkers, this is south. So southwest is always going to be the exit to the next area. Inside of that last area, you can also find the crop circles. There's like a crop circle you can find if you want to, but that is just lore stuff. That's just you get a little bit of loot maybe. In this area, we are looking for the Executioner. And that is all we are looking for in this area. There is nothing else in this area worth looking for. So in PoE 1, it was very standard to kind of skip most of the enemies on the map. I'm just going to kill that rare. In this game, it's a little bit harder because if you're not built for it correctly, enemies can kind of pile up and really take you on and take you out. So in this area, I did not pick a side and stick to it. I kind of ran through the middle like an idiot. And I think I made a mistake because I'm pretty sure the boss is going to be on the north west side. So I should have just stuck to this wall, which was my original plan. But once you get strong enough, like, so what I was saying, you can run past a lot of stuff. And then once you get strong enough, you can really just group a lot of stuff up and just start knocking it out very quickly. This early on, defenses don't matter barely at all. Act 1 Cruel is when I would say you'd start noticing the lack of defenses on the build. So right here, I'm just trying to head north, northish, because I'm pretty sure the boss is going to be like north of here. I'm not guaranteeing that'll always happen, but I just, you know, pattern, that's been a pattern for me playing this game. Is it's always, the boss has always been kind of north, northwestish. Or it could be, but north period, but it could be back here a little bit. Because here are the Manor Ramparts right here, and that's the next area we're going to get to. So here is the boss. So yeah, it was northwestish. More west than north. So the Executioner's here. This is the guy that tried to kill us, and he just chops that dude's head off right away. And now it's our turn. Okay, I will let him attack a couple times. He does a big anchor drop. So he does this frontal attack, which is just a frontal AoE sweeping attack. And now he's going to do that again. I'm trying to get him to do some of his other attacks. Okay, let me phase him. Okay, so there's a nice little frontal kick. That's always fun. Okay, so he's going to start charging up, and then he does a big old AoE in front of him. So that's a really easy to attack to a dodge just by getting behind him. Honestly, a lot of his attacks are easy if you just get behind him. Like, I mean, you could just dodge his attacks so easily. Just stand behind him, mess with him a little bit. Okay, let's phase him a little bit more because I want to see his anchor drop move. So right there, he started having archers come out and help him. So now ads are going to start coming out and shooting arrows at you. Oh, here's the big anchor drop. So you could see right there the arrows, or the there was kind of a big air circle on the ground, and you just got to get out of it before it drops on you. I'm going to try to get him to do it again. So there is his giant leap slam. He does a leap slam that turns around and slams the ground behind him. Let me get a little bit of range on him and see if I can trigger his other attacks. Okay, so there is his frontal slam, which is just kind of a line slam versus the AoE slam we saw earlier. And now, okay, here we go. Here we go. The arrow on the ground is that circle, and then the big old axe drops, and now he'll do his frontal slam again. And let's just take him out now. But that's basically all his moves. You can see they're pretty easy to dodge. You just kind of get behind him for most of his moves. The only one that's a big AoE that you really need to worry about there's two of them. The one where he charges up his hammer, but as long as you're behind him, that AoE won't hit you. And then there's also the big anchor that drops on you. You'll see the giant, all the air kind of going out from a circle, and you just move away from that circle. It's pretty easy to avoid. He holds his axe off to his side, and he doesn't really attack for a second, and it gives you a big window to kind of notice it. I like that attack a lot, and the reason I call it an anchor is it reminds me of the Settlers of Catan pirate boss who drops an anchor on you when you're when you go fight him. And then there's an achievement for like avoiding all of the anchors. So okay, once you kill him, let Letus free, and she, you know, she'll cry about, I think, her husband maybe, which, you know, is fair enough. He just got murdered right in front of her. But shut the fuck up. Okay, so go ahead, grab this waypoint. I almost always find that this north passage, like if you go north on this area, it's a dead end, but we'll see. I normally have to end up going south. Yeah. So right here, it's a dead end already, and so now we have to go back down south. So that's just been a pattern for me on this map too, is that this is always a dead end to like northeast. So the southwest is kind of southwest is the direction you need to go on the Manor Ramparts. And then once I get here, I almost always have to go northeast, like on the first turn. It's kind of northeast and then back around because it's ramparts, so it's, you know, encircling a castle or a manor. We're getting very, very close to getting our Ice Strike skill. And once we get Ice Strike, we will be able to upgrade it quite a bit with some support gems. Right when we get Ice Strike, we will use it a little bit without support gems, but I'll throw support gems in it almost immediately. And then we'll be rocking. Okay. So from here, kind of still heading, now I'm going back down southwest. And again, there is a little bit of random generation to maps, and just because I've had the same pattern many times doesn't mean it'll always be that pattern. I have found a couple of exceptions to my patterns. But anyways, what this is on the ground is this is corrupted blood, and if you stand in it, you'll just take damage over time, okay? So it's not a ton of damage over time, but it is damage over time. And right here, watch this. You'll see multiple of them stacked, and, or well, actually, that's still only one. I don't think more than one popped. I was just trying to show that, you know, sometimes you could have it stacking and then you're just like, oh shit. Now, you can see the guys that I froze and exploded generally won't drop corrupted blood. So by using the freeze build, you can avoid some of those ground dots, like corrupted blood specifically. And corrupted blood does chaos damage over time. Yeah, so you can see I froze all those guys, but one of them still turned in corrupted blood there. Are we level? So we are almost level 14. Once we get to level 14, we'll be able to actually use Ice Strike, which is awesome. Once I get a level 5 gem, which I don't believe I have any in my stash, but I can always check. But you'll get one eventually just from killing stuff. So you can see on this map, we've kind of done a big old circle, and I will show the whole map when we're done. To kind of show the pathing that I took around. And in general, like I said, my pattern on this map has almost always been relatively similar. Okay. So here we have a little rare, and we already got an Orb of Chance. That's actually a really good drop this early on in the game. An Orb of Chance is worth 6 or 7 exalted right now. So that's a really good drop this early in the game. Okay, we found the manor. So now let's very quickly look at where we started and then just kind of show you. So you can see we started here and we just kind of came around, and it was just kind of a circle around this entire area. So like inside of here would have been kind of like the courtyard of the manor, I guess, or the like city or something. And then this is just kind of a wall going around it. And so it's I've always had this same L-shaped pattern or U-shaped pattern when doing the Manor Ramparts. So just kind of keep that in mind if you get lost here. It's at least a bit of a guide. You know, it could be, it goes a different direction for you. It could be a little bit different, but it should be relatively the same. Okay, so let's go ahead and throw in our next couple skill points. And let's also discuss, actually, we don't want to go this way first. We're going to go I'm going to go to the left first. So let's say I was starting off as a warrior. I would have started the same way, but I would have actually stopped in to get all these strength nodes. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually going to go all the way around over here, and I'm going to drop down, and my goal is to get here to these strength nodes. I want to get all those strength nodes because we're attribute stacking, okay? Even if you're not playing a Gemling Legionnaire, you're attribute stacking. So we're going to head back into the city very quickly. And I'm hoping that we have a skill gem level 5, but we might not. Okay, skills. And let's just see. Oh, I do have a skill gem level 5. Awesome. So you'll eventually get this drop, but I just want to put it on to kind of show you Ice Strike. So now we have Ice Strike, which is this is our main ability that we'll be using for the rest of the game. I'm going to get rid of Glacial Cascade, period. I'm never going to use it again. But you're more than welcome to, you know, keep using Glacial Cascade if you want to. Okay, so like I said, it's very rare to get such a good Orb of Chance this early on in the game. Okay, really quickly, I'm just going to kind of spam through some of the... Oh, well, you would have got an Uncut Skill Gem level 5 right there from her. So that's how you get your Ice Strike. And then I'm going to upgrade to level 5 Bell. And now we're going to talk to Una. And we're going to get our 2 extra passive points that we got for doing her side. For her side mission of finding her loot. And the last thing we're going to do is nothing. We're done here. But the last thing we're actually going to do is we're going to look at gems. Okay? So for this build, part of the thing with this build is we're going to the outside of this tree, and we're basically attribute stacking by going all the way around. The only time we'll get off the outside of the tree is we'll also go down here and get these dexterity node and then those strength nodes. But that means we get a lot of jewel sockets, okay? A lot of jewel sockets. The best jewels that you can find are jewels that give you increased attributes. I've never crafted one myself. I've never tried to buy one either. I've been told they exist. I've never seen one. You can see that I've crafted a bunch of jewels myself, but I've actually never seen a increased attribute one. So I'm not going to sit here and guarantee they exist, but I've been told they exist. What I generally look for is, this is like 15% increased cold damage. Okay, I like that. And then this one has increased attack damage, increased area of effect, and it's just like, it's got a little bit of rage on it. So that's interesting. Some other things that you could look for are going to be like regain mana when you kill an enemy, like 2% increased mana, or gain 2% mana when you kill an enemy. Increased attack speed is going to be nice. But anything that scales attributes, attack speed, you know, stuff like that is generally going to be pretty good. Anything that gives you like a flat damage increase is going to be okay. You can go look at Palstron's guide to actually find out like what he suggests, but like right here, 17% increased freeze buildup with a quarterstaff. Well, we're freezing, so that could freeze enemies quicker. So anyways, besides that, if we look at our leveling gear, we're now able to use this ring. So this ring is going to, enemies chilled by your hits can be shattered as though frozen. So now we don't even have to freeze enemies to shatter them. All we have to do is freeze them, and that's going to give us a huge advantage. Also, we have this ring right here. So this ring is really good because it has three attack stats on it. So it has adds 1 to 4 physical, it has add 3 to 8 fire damage, it has add 2 to 5 physical damage, okay? And then it's got mana regeneration rate and strength. So this ring is actually pretty good to wear right now. And how you can tell if a ring is better than what you're currently wearing is, again, just look at your DPS meter right here, take the ring, switch it out with what you're wearing, not this one. Don't switch out this ring. This ring you have to have on your build. But as far as the black heart goes, when you want to upgrade the black heart, just put the ring on, and if your DPS goes up, that's generally a pretty good sign that that ring's better. There are a couple things it doesn't take into account, but none of those things are relevant right now. And then I like to just throw, anytime I upgrade gear, I like to throw my original gear just back in here for my next character that I'm going to upgrade. Also, we can officially wear the Wanderlust sandals, and the Wanderlust sandals have 20% movement speed instead of just 10% movement speed. So we are going to switch over to the 20% movement speed sandals. Thank you, Luminous Pace sandals, for helping us out so much up to here. And so now we're in a new little set of gear, and we won't change our gear very much from here on out. But we are going to insert this jewel socket into our you know, our thing, and you can see that my attack damage went up on Ice Strike by 10%. And that's all I was going for, was the increased attack damage right there. Now we're going back to the waypoint, and we're going to head into the manor. Hey, it's Future Editing Fugio here with a quick PSA. I actually didn't equip Ice Strike. You'll notice that I keep using the basic Quarterstaff Strike, and I don't realize it till like halfway through Act 2. But basically, I still kill all the bosses. I still don't die. Like, it's still a very smooth experience, but you need to equip Ice Strike onto your bar. Ice Strike makes it where you do a little teleport to enemies and you're hitting them. And I keep talking about how good Ice Strike is. And in my head, I'm like, why am I not teleporting to enemies? Why is my mana not going away? What's going on here? And but I keep pushing through. I'm still doing good damage, but then eventually in Act 2, in the next video, I do put Ice Strike on and I put some support gems on it, and it really starts to pick it up. But even without that, you'll see the damage is really good. And even the basic attack carries us all the way through Act 1 and halfway through Act 2 with no problems at all. The only thing is the DPS is a little bit slower, and by a little bit, it's quite a bit slower than it would be if I had Ice Strike on and I was dropping bells and hitting the bells with Ice Strike. And I do comment a couple times on how low the DPS is. But anyways, that's it. Put Ice Strike on. We're going to get back to the actual video now, and let's go finish up Act 1. So for some reason, the manor is actually considered underground. So inside the manor on the first floor, what you're looking for is, the first thing you're looking for is the giant hole in the floor where you can actually see the boss, and you can see right away. Look at the difference in damage. Look at these dudes just exploding. Everything explodes when I hit it. Just explosion, explosion, explosion. You know, all I got to do is hit it one time, and all the gear that I'm showing you is literally just a couple of exalts. So you do not have to be very far into the game to level alt characters this easily. So the first thing we're looking for is this hole in the ground, which shows you the boss. The next thing we're looking for is going to be Candlemass, okay? So there is a side boss in this area, and he actually is not, he doesn't show up. Oh, wait, he shows up underground. Let's go underground. Right here, Candlemass, the Living Right. This is what we're looking for. And you can see right here, it has a little plus mark next to it, and that means it gives us some sort of permanent increase, okay?
That's him.
So that boss is always going to be on the first floor of the manor, okay? So make sure you don't leave the first floor of the manor before you find him. And he generally, for me, he's always been past that hole in the ground. So I always find that hole in the ground where you can see down to the final boss, and then I come find Candlemass, and I'm already found him. Here's the chapel with Candlemass. So Candlemass is a pretty cool boss. I like him a lot. He visually is very cool. He's just a bunch of candles. So he has a really strong frontal AoE. So right now he's just going to shoot his sword out in front of him. He has another frontal AoE where he shoots a bunch of fireballs out in front of himself, and I'm kind of waiting for him to do that. Okay, I could kill him. I can kill him in like 2 seconds at this point, but I'm trying to show off some of his attacks. So there's his frontal swing again. And here, oh, here's where he blows fire in front of himself. And that is not the other frontal attack I was talking about, but it is a strong frontal attack. And you can see I'm just kind of circling around him to avoid his attacks. I'm trying to show off his final attack that I think is very strong. Let me kind of hit him a couple more times. See how quickly I could kill this guy if I wanted to? Okay, so he is going to charge up. Okay, he's just doing his flamethrower again. Again, you can just kind of dodge him. Okay, here it is. So that is his other frontal attack. And you can see it went a little bit behind him too. And it just does a ton of fireballs all around him. So that's how you kill Candlemass. And what Candlemass drops is he drops this Candlemass's Essence. And this Candlemass's Essence is going to give you a permanent 20% increase to your life. So it's fucking huge. Make sure you get it. Oh, sorry, a plus 20 to max life is what you get. And then you get a 20% increase in max life, I'm pretty sure, off the second version. But a plus 20 to max life right now is really good. And remember that max life scales in this game. It doesn't scale really well right now. Energy Shield scales a lot better than max life right now. But okay, once you're done with Candlemass, the goal is to find the exit to the next floor. And you can kind of see that I got a little messed up right there. So generally speaking, for me, the exit to the next area has kind of been on the east side, the east, north, kind of like this direction, northeast-ish, kind of. Yeah, so there it is. So generally what happens for me in this area is I find the entrance, I run through, and then I find this little hole in the ground where you can see down to the final boss. Then I find Candlemass somewhere close to that hole, like, but past it. And then I head to the northeast over here, and I find the exit. So generally, that's been my pattern in this area, but that isn't always guaranteed. In this one, generally, my exit's been on the southwest. So I'm just going to start heading towards the southwest. And again, you still have to find that hole in the ground first. So you have to find the hole in the ground, go past the hole in the ground before you find the exit. So you'll kind of be guided to that hole in the ground by just heading south. So here we found the hole in the ground.
Another one. He's under there.
So you can see the AoE on this build just shot up dramatically from Herald of Ice, Ice Strike, and then the unique ring that we're wearing. Okay, so we passed the hole, and now I'm just heading southwest. And again, we headed southwest. We found the exit to the next area. This is the final floor till you actually go fight the boss. So at this point, you're just looking for the boss hole. And once you find the boss hole, you'll have an elevator that takes you down to the boss fight. This boss is a 2-phase boss. Kind of fun. Okay. So on this one, you're just kind of heading. So if you find a door like this at all, anywhere in here, and it says door instead of stairs, it's just lore area. So you can find like a torture log. So like this is talking about somebody who it took them forever to, you know, like they refused to give up on people or refused to give up the information they wanted. But there's a couple different rooms in the manor that have lore in it, and I just haven't taken the time to go through and read it all, but I will. Okay, so now we found the arena with the boss, and again, this is a 2-phase boss. Let's go ahead and put in this next skill point before we go in here. So it's a jewel socket. I don't have a jewel to put in it right now, so it did nothing for me. So we're heading down. The first thing you're going to have to do, this is not one of the phases, you just got to kill all the ads that are in here. You only ever have to kill these ads once, so if you fight this boss again, you don't have to. So the first thing the boss is going to do is he's going to jump down in here into the middle, and you're just going to fight him as a person. Very nice. And so he does a lot of just frontal swings. And he also turns into a wolf, but you can see if you just freeze him and throw your bell down, you're going to kill this guy super quickly. So at this point, he is going to, he's already been phased to his next phase. You can see that big frontal swing and the ice strike just get outside of those walls of ice. At this point, I'm just waiting for him to phase. So it's all this lore that's happening. You're just waiting for him to go to his next phase, and he's going to turn into a wolf. He's going to turn into like a wolf corrupted by the beast. So in this phase, he will do a lot of stuff. He'll do his frontal swings again. And then he will also do a thing where he holds its sword into the air and he summons down a bunch of ice. So in this phase, you'll stay in the middle. The middle is a safe spot, and he'll start summoning ads. Kill the ads as they appear, and then occasionally he'll jump across the screen. You can try to dodge his jumps. I think they are kind of like, they come at set times, so they are dodgeable, but it's not the end of the way. He doesn't do like so much damage that you should be stressing about it in Act 1. Maybe when you fight him as like a boss in the end game. And I'm just making sure, I'm kind of paying attention to my health pots, because like right now, the biggest worry is I run out of health. And so I'm going to go back to beating him real quick, and I'm just going to throw down a bell and just beat on the bell, and this guy goes down so fast. The only other attack he has 2 attacks that you can kind of worry about. He has an attack where he starts kind of channeling his sword, and you see these little ice, like little cold patches, chilled ground go out from him in a circle, and you just need to run as far away from him as you can, because he's gonna just shoot up a bunch of ice spikes all around him, and you got to get outside of the range of the ice circle, and you'll see it on the ground. The next attack he does that can kill you is he holds his sword in the air and he summons down ice. You'll see little indicators on the ground that show you the damage is going to fall there. They can be all over the map, so you can dodge one, roll into another, but just try to find an area that doesn't have very many and then avoid them. That's the best thing you can really do. Right here, we're just waiting for lore to happen. But that is basically all of Act 1. That is a detailed walkthrough of Act 1, all the bosses in Act 1 that you have to kill. We didn't do the Devour because the Devour doesn't give you anything. We didn't do a couple of like Devour side quests because like all you get is a support gem and gold, who cares? We did the Brambleghast just because it popped up. We didn't do Crop Circle. We didn't do Gallows. You don't have to do any of that stuff. It just gives you loot. And at this point in the game, if you're leveling an alt character, you don't need that loot. So this is just a way of getting through the acts as quickly as possible to kind of get to that end game. Okay, so once you get in here, you can talk to everybody if you want to, but the only person you really have to talk to is the hooded one. Come up to the hooded one, and what you're going to do is you're going to say, follow the beast trail. And this is going to lead you into Act 2. So that is it for Act 1. So we're done with Act 1. We've made it all the way through. We're heading into Act 2. In the next video, we're going to tackle Act 2 really quickly. We're going to get through Act 2 in like hour and a half. It's not going to be very long at all. Act 1 took us all together, this video recording time. By editing time, I'll edit out a little bit, but it's an hour 42 minutes to get through Act 1. So really not that long to get through Act 1. It's going to be even shorter to get through Act 2. If I wasn't talking so much and I wasn't like sitting there trying to attack different things and show you different abilities. It would have been a lot quicker. Well, here we go into Act 2. I'll see you in the next video, which for me is going to be almost immediately. But if you liked what you saw, please drop me a sub on YouTube. I would love it. I'm trying to get to monetization on YouTube. I'm very close. I just need 500 subs. And PoE has been a great game. I'm super excited about continuing to make videos for it. And I'm super excited about this series. This is going to be leveling an alt character through PoE 2. I'm also going to be like leveling your first character through PoE 2, what characters I suggest, and then kind of taking you through those characters. And personally, by the way, I suggest a witch. So, but anyways, we're in Act 2. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.